So welcome everyone. Here we are at video number 7, chakra 7. We've reached the top chakra, the crown chakra. And let's just launch into it, David. How would you begin to describe the all-important crown chakra?
Yeah, describing it is a bit of a trick. If you look up at the man behind me there, the seventh one here is represented by a prism. And then you got 8 and 9 on both sides that are just working. The light part of the universe, and on the other side you can't see very well, is the planetary light matter, dark matter. But the prism, our seventh chakra, is the consciousness, which from seventh chakra upward into the universe is consciousness of the universe, consciousness, what's called Purusha in Sanskrit, the overall awareness of a universe which is self-aware.
Right. Yeah, you can just launch into wherever you feel you could there. It's the beginning of the video, and I've asked you to, how would you describe Sahasrara? So a lot of people, yeah, a lot of people spell it with a W, Sahasrara. And so
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that.
Sahasrara.
Sahasrara.
Sahasrara is the way that I've been saying it for sure. So yeah, let's launch in.
So how do you describe consciousness? With the lower chakras, we're looking at actual tangible material forces from gravity all the way to electromagnetic and magnetic. Now, the seventh element is beyond these measurable electromagnetic forces that we can detect and measure with modern scientific instruments. And this has become a stumbling block for science because they have to admit now that there's some kind of a conscious field that is interconnecting everything in the universe. Everything is connected to this one consciousness. And the equation for consciousness doesn't quite fit into modern scientific rapport. So a lot of the physicists tend to just ignore that. But going back to the reality of we are conscious. We are conscious of watching this video.
Yeah.
Our
And
consciousness.
unfortunately,
Go ahead.
well, unfortunately for science is they're looking for a mathematical calculation, and the mathematical calculation for consciousness is it's just not something that has been achieved, right?
Right. Maybe they'll come up with something. But the other thing we mentioned earlier is that the mathematical, the intellectual quantum physics perspective is completely lacking the feeling. Okay, we think about the energies, we can calculate, we can make formulas, but we don't experience the energies in science. So yoga brings us into the experience. And what does the experiencing is consciousness. Your consciousness has to come into the brain and perceive the electromagnetic waves that are coming into the eyeballs, the sound waves that are coming into your ears. All of this, we become conscious of hearing, of seeing, of feeling. If you take consciousness out of it, there simply is no experience.
Right.
The sound can be there, but there's no one hearing it. The consciousness is an intricate part of everything. So this prism on the top of the head, the crown chakra, is the part of us that incarnates into the body has all of the experiences we have in life, all through life, and that's the reality of what we are. We are consciousness. And because it's the crown chakra, not in the head, but above it, it's implying that we go from there upwards. And this is our eternal nature.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that consciousness is not stuck in the body perceptions. For most people, it is, though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
In yoga, you want to liberate yourself, liberate your consciousness from body perception. Then you realize, just like when you're having a dream,
Mm-hmm.
you're seeing things in the dream, but your eyes aren't working. They're closed.
Right.
So we have this consciousness that goes into the dream world, beyond the dream world, into higher levels of reality, other
Mm-hmm.
expanded, the multidimensional universe. And that consciousness is totally free to explore and fly around and have amazing experiences
Mm-hmm.
beyond the body.
In psychology, one of the ideas that's starting to get exposed and that I've seen recently is that there's an understanding that a lot of our ideas and dreams and things that go through our mind are non-local, in that it's not actually in our brain and
Right.
in us. They're starting to understand that there's actually a connection to something outside of us, which,
Yeah.
well, being all one, it's not really outside, but it's outside of this particular physical experience. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the mind of the universe, which contains all the information. And in Sanskrit, it's called the buddhi. Okay. Purusha is the cosmic awareness, seventh chakra. And then you come into the mind, it's called buddhi. And if you're totally connected with that mind, you're called a Buddha. And that's
Right.
the mind that contains all the information. And the information is there. It's in the electromagnetic ocean, not just
Mm-hmm.
blank energy, but energy with information all mixed in. And
Mm-hmm.
our brains are the tuner, like your laptop, your cell phone, the gadget that can actually access this knowledge, this information with
Mm-hmm.
the consciousness that's coming in there. So being able to direct consciousness is an important aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And in yoga, you differentiate between your consciousness is observing the thoughts, getting carried away with thoughts and fantasies, but you're not directing consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
You're not directing what your mind is thinking. You're just
Mm-hmm.
observing without being in the driver's seat. So there's
Often referred to as the observer, right?
yeah.
The term that's been used lately is
Yeah, the
the
observer is a
observer.
good term,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't leave you in an empowered position. You're simply observing what's happening, but not
Mm-hmm.
directing anything. And when
Right.
we're into the sixth and seventh chakras, we're actually in a position to direct what's going on, to direct our thoughts, to
Mm-hmm.
change our brain chemistry by changing the thoughts,
Right.
this kind of thing. Now back
The
to
realm of the infinite, right? Isn't it infinite potential is
yeah,
a term that's often used in that area?
yeah, infinite potential. And David Bohm's movie was called Infinite Potential.
Oh, yeah.
He realized in the real world of quantum physics, everything is just potentially there as energy, as frequencies and energies, and then with information. And then we take that and we direct it into our lives to manifest whatever we like, whatever we want, whatever we think we can. The problem is we've been programmed with so much negativity that we can't just access a new possibility and bring it in because people will say, oh, that's not even possible, according to
Mm-hmm.
my education. So
Right.
we need to go beyond that. What I was saying about the gadget, our brain, and we have the pineal gland that is associated with the seventh chakra. Spoke a little bit
Mm-hmm.
about it before. but the pineal gland has crystalline molecules in it, and crystals have this capacity to tune in to electromagnetic energy and read the energy and get the information out.
Right.
This goes back to 1950s. My older brother Gene got this crystal set radio, which was just a quartz crystal with a needle on it, and the needle went through a loop and into headphones. And you move the needle on the crystal, and it would become, you could tune into a radio station. And if you went to another part of the crystal, there'd be another radio station. Well, how? This is just a piece of rock, a little crystal thing. But
Right.
our pineal gland has this crystal function and can tune into this greater realm of possibilities, just as light energy, electromagnetic light energy. And again, the light we see is a small fraction of this whole electromagnetic spectrum. And the pineal gland has the crystalline structures that can tap into a much greater bandwidth of this whole ocean, the electromagnetic ocean.
Receptor, our receptor. So that's it's good that we're clearing one thing up, because I know that a lot of people say that the pineal gland is attached to, are associated with ajna, the sixth chakra, but it's in fact more of a receptor to our connection to source, right?
Yeah.
So the pineal is connected to the crown chakra, not ajna as much. Ajna, as you said, is the pituitary gland, which has more functions. That
more
endocrine.
physiological functions. So the seventh is, again, beyond, stepping beyond our connection to the universal realm, to this cosmic consciousness of Purusha, to the mind of the Buddhi that has all the information. And we can simply clear our normal mind and tune into this for amazing inspiration. And as this energy is coming in and you're feeling it, it generates a feeling of blissfulness, happiness, kind of with an eternal tinge to it, that you realize, wow, this is eternal happiness, and it's part of what we are as spiritual beings.
So an interesting aspect of the seventh, the crown chakra, Sahasrara, is that it, in fact, like in one of my representations, I used a crystal lotus as the representation of the crown. And when light goes through a crystal like that, it puts out a rainbow. And this idea that Sahasrara actually runs through and is present in all the chakras, or connected to. I just love that visual element, the fact that the crystal puts out a rainbow that represents all the colors of all the chakras.
Yeah.
I think it's just a nice way to explain or talk about the fact that it runs throughout. So can you speak more to that connection between Sahasrara and all the others?
Yeah, the crystal connection you mentioned is a really cool way of describing the universe is made of this light electromagnetic energy. And when you pass basic sunlight through this crystal that you're talking about, or through a prism, it breaks down into these different colors. And the colors then are the frequency connected to each of the lower chakras: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So the consciousness is going down into one of these, and we're seeing red, we're seeing yellow, we're having experiences in Muladhara, we're having experiences in Swadhisthana. The consciousness needs to be there to have the experience. So it needs to be all present and everywhere. Rather than being unconscious beings, we want to be conscious and perceiving these things. The perceiving itself is more ajna. The processing center that's taking in all the information and creating our picture of what we think we see out there in the world.
Mhm.
But without consciousness, you don't see it at all. So no
Right.
point processing if there's no observer. So we
Right.
keep coming back to this observer, which is the seventh element. And then in
Mhm.
the yogas, we have mantra yoga, which here is getting into sound that becomes musical, harmonic, and has the capability of uplifting. I mean, if you look at some of the Hollywood movies, you see that they use music to create the emotional state, right? If
Mhm.
it's fear or danger or whatever, or else joyfulness and happiness, different music. So
Mhm.
music is an important aspect. And as I've said before, in all the religions of the world, we have this chanting of the deities, chanting of whatever it is, the use of sound
Mhm.
harmonically and with music to elevate your consciousness and feel that we're back in touch with this higher realm.
Mhm. And the sound of the crown chakra is actually Om, right? The actual
Yeah.
most well-known chant or mantra of all, right?
Yeah. And Om is the sum total of all the other frequencies of this vibrating energy. Put it all together and it comes into
Phenomenal.
this.
Mhm.
And if you're sitting in a very quiet place, which is hard to find, actually, there's noise everywhere, but in a very quiet cave someplace, just listening and you can shut off your mind, then you'll hear this Aum, and it's AUM, and it sounds like it's wavering like an ow, ow, ow. This is a constant vibration of the whole ocean that's vibrating in this way. It's actually quite beautiful. It feels like you can feel like you're floating in this ocean when you're
Mhm.
immersed in that without the mental interference of our worldly stuff.
You know, I years ago, I in my deep meditations in different parts of the world, I remember I was in Spain, Canary Islands, and then I was in Canada, and I was in Mexico. In fact, I think it was here in Thailand too, at one point, where in my deep meditations, I would hear that, "Ow, ow,
Yeah,
ow, ow,"
yeah,
I would hear it. And so, as you know, I have a lot of experience with frequencies and sound, and I have a meter, and so uh, I began to measure it, and very often it ended up in containing the Schumann resonance, and
right. Yeah.
you know, with which is interesting because the Schumann resonance is in fact a measurement of this frequency that's happening
Yeah.
throughout. And that's science, and that's why I mention it because you know because everybody's into the religion of science today. Um, it
Yeah.
helps them understand that that sound is there.
Yeah. We need to go further into this study of sound and vibration and energy and the quantum physics. It's the new revelation. It's bringing us back around to realize really everything is made of sound. And if
Hmm.
we learn to work with sound, um, we can do many things. And these sounds begin with the sound of your own thinking, which is for most people all day long. The thoughts are rambling around, coming from who knows where, out of
Hmm.
control. But it's all in a verbal process coming into this vibrational aspect of your brain that then
Hmm.
produces all the chemistry, etc. And we haven't been taught or learned about the reality of this sound function in our own mind is a real powerful tool that we can use to change things, to change our thoughts, to change our expectations. And mantra is one of the keys of doing that. So mantra yoga. And you can be chanting all kinds of Om Namah Shivayas or Om Mani Padme Hum or Hallelujah. They're all attempting to bring our consciousness to this higher place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's above the normal mind, which is the crown chakra is above the mind.
Right.
When your consciousness comes down into the mind, into the body, you're having your normal worldly life, you're thinking, you're planning, you're doing, etc. The idea in meditation is to take that prism and point it up so that your consciousness is free from all your worldly fears and worries and problems, and you're simply living back in this state of a universal ocean of blissful energy.
Mm-hmm. Connected to source. Nice.
Yeah.
And there's so many words, so many vocabulary, so much vocabulary around it now. As we, I was just watching a piece on people discuss the definitions of God, and you know, that's why I think, you know, those definitions are so set and in a box that we're going looking for other words to describe this oneness, describe this source, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're all seeking connection to that entity or that energy. Yeah.
That's where we come from. It's where we go back to. The interim, the seventh chakra comes into the body and has all the worldly experiences. And
Mhm.
people get trapped in the body experience and forget that actually we're just visiting temporarily in a rented vehicle here, and then we move on.
Mhm.
So because
And
the
then-
seventh chakra is on the crown on top of the head, it's
Mhm.
connected to the eighth and ninth chakras, which most
Right.
people don't have much knowledge about that, but don't need it because it's not in your body. It's not in the world. The eighth and ninth are, the ninth would be like the source of the radiant energy of the universe. And the eighth is the more invisible side of this energy, where
Mhm.
the energy condenses back into the dark matter, the atoms and molecules, etc. And that what I use in the man behind me is a picture of a galaxy and a solar system. In the galaxy, you have all these energies radiating out from all the stars, all the galaxies, filling the
Mhm.
universe with radiation, electromagnetic radiation. And then you have the condensation of this into our planets and the dark matter and you and me and all the creatures that are on the planet,
Mhm.
etc. And this energy is everywhere. And when
Mhm.
your seventh chakra is out in space here, you're swimming in this ocean, which is constant energy flow from 9 to 8, from the radiant energy to the dark matter to the molecular formations, etc. When you are feeling that flow of energy, it's completely undifferentiated at this
Mhm.
point. It's just a flow of harmonic, vibrational, musical experience, let's say.
Mhm. That's great. We have a great photograph of the chakra man behind you in black light that shows them really well. So maybe
Yeah.
we can flash that on the
Yeah, we
screen.
can throw that on.
Yeah, because it's nice to see that there's even more chakras. We're not going to get into it, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was
Just
reading
getting into
about
7, 8, 9 is already you're out in space.
it's already so it's out of the scope of what it is that we're trying to achieve here with touching on each chakra individually. Um, so anything else that I mean, meditation would be one of the great activities or exercises that one can do to connect to the seventh.
Yeah. And the precursor to meditation is you have to be able to shut off your mind so that you can
Right.
enter this state of meditation and have higher experiences. So it's meditation, chanting, all these higher things,
Right.
going beyond the material world and all the problems that we seem to have here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's a good point to reach for anyone, that they can take some time out from letting all those ridiculous ideas just go round and round. I mean, psychologists and the psychology and neuroscience says that we have about 70,000 thoughts a day. Eliminating tens of thousands of those does not disrupt your life. It enhances it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and people are worried about that. They feel they need to be thinking about their problems all the time to solve them. But in fact, in meditation and in getting away from it, the subconscious mind settles stuff, works things out, and that in fact can move us forward. So
And it can also be, consciousness can then be bringing in another possibility that you would not have thought about when you're busy
mhm,
thinking. So this
right.
idea of taking a break and rising above it and looking at your life and whatever problems there are from a higher perspective, without worry and fear and anxiety, all of a sudden, oh, I get it now. I understand why this is happening, and I can
Mhm,
change things.
yeah. So we've gone up the whole column now. We're at number 7. Anything else you feel needs to be said here? And just to let people know, we will do a wrap-up video that ties everything together. But we have now reached the 7th chakra, and
Yeah.
yeah.
With seventh chakra, we have the mantra yoga. When you get to the eighth chakra, it's called, the form of yoga is called Laya yoga. Now, Laya
Mhm,
literally means to dissolve,
right.
dissolving the material, which just goes back into energy.
Mhm,
And the eighth form of yoga with Laya, it's also goes into the Kundalini yoga, working with energy that you can't see. Okay,
right.
it's the invisible part of this whole ocean. You can feel it, and the techniques have to do with feeling the energy, bringing it in, redirecting it, and creating energy patterns that are going to evolve your consciousness and take you into these higher places.
Mhm,
Now, the ninth chakra is the visible. Because it's the star light, it's the star energy that we see, and it's the source of all the energy. It's the radiation principle of the galaxies and all the stars that are the source of all the power, all the energy. So we
mhm,
have this duality of the source and the destiny of the the source being, in a sense, a little bit maybe philosophical, can be a little bit religious, and this goes into bhakti yoga. Now, bhakti in
mhm,
India is just pure devotion to gods and goddesses as a form of
mhm,
yoga. It's coming to an understanding of the oneness of everything. And this is where the quantum physics comes in. You're dealing with the source of the energy that fills the whole universe.
mhm,
Coming to understand that and understand how everything is interconnected, everything is made of energy, and we can experience this energy as a incoming from the source and feel quite inspired and gifted with having this. And in
mhm,
the Laya Yoga, you're taking a hold of this energy with feeling and directing it with mental visionary techniques until you can feel this energy, and you're charging yourself up and awakening a greater energy flow.
mhm.
This is part of this process of the higher forms of yoga.
Right. And
Mantra yoga, Laya yoga,
this, mhm.
and bhakti.
And bhakti devotional. Laya, we have very advanced breathing techniques. I mean, the number of breathing techniques that exist in yoga is beyond most people's imagination. But
Yeah.
there are some really deep ones that we do, for this dissolution, for dissolving
Yeah.
stored emotions, for dissolving false, framework, for a false mental constructs. Like there's so much going on those levels.
Yeah. And when you're in the driver's seat, you can use this energy to recreate patterns in thought, in emotion, in energy fields that are going to awaken more energy, create more empowerment. In a sense, the ninth chakra, let's say, taking it away from the bhakti or the religious side into, let's say, philosophy, where you're contemplating, you're seeing the universal reality. When you go to the eighth chakra and Laya, you're dealing with the invisible energy and working with it as a feeling. The ninth contains the thought, the information, the inspiration. The eighth is the feeling, the sensation, and all the way to the orgasmic awakening of Kundalini. And then seven is the consciousness of that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have chakras working like in trinities of the first three for the material existence in our world, the next 3, 4, 5, 6, the beginning of expansion, reconnecting to something beyond us, and then going to the beyond. 7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9. Nice.
Mhm.
Cool. Very nice. We so nice to put perspective on these angles, these aspects of all the chakras. So any final words on 7, and before we do another video, which will be the wrap up?
No, I think that's it for now. As we get into 7, 8, 9 again, there's no physiological connections very much. We have the pineal gland, okay, but 8 and 9 are out in space. So how much can you say about these higher realities? They don't fit into the material world. They're beyond the mind, so the mind can't be used to describe them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely chakras of experience, which comes with a lot of practice and devotion to getting there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is. We've covered all 7 chakras now, and we will continue with video number 8. It'll be called video 8, and it'll be a wrap up on everything that we've talked about in the first 7.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer than this one. Maybe I'll prepare a little bit and take some points on missing things and how it all fits together. And
nice. Perfect. All right.
Okay.
Another one.
Till next time.
Till next time.